Okay. We also have the tyrant dad. The tyrant dad is the abusive dad. Okay. And you can see that later on the description itself. The rating dad. That's the dad who plays favorites. He rates you by your value by what you do, your accomplishment. Okay. The tombstone dad. This is a very favorite of mine. He is a dad who is silent but deadly. He is. He is a dad who don't know how to communicate effectively, and that's why I call it tombstone dad, because without communication there can be no relationship. Okay, and communication is the basis of life. Relationship is the basis of life. Without communication there's death. Okay, without circulation in your body, that area of your body will die. Okay, communication works the same way. So the tombstone dad kills because of his limitation in communication. And I explained to you later on during the CG itself. Okay, the egotistical dad, you can figure out what that means. And the dividing dad. Okay, the dividing dad is a dad usually who breaks promises. Who breaks promises, and even in the case, leaving mom. Divorce, case of divorce. Okay, and I'm gonna later on during that time, you're gonna figure out a lot of these people. I mean, okay, so far the basic description, the distorted dad. Okay, this is just the negative. But then there are some people who have really awesome dads. Okay, and what do you do in those scenarios? There are people who went to our temple gathering. They said, "Well, this doesn't apply to me because I have a really awesome dad." The good dad. Okay, and that's awesome. But and if they don't have any issue in their image, that's great. But most of the time, even if you have a good dad, here's what I learned. Kids who mostly have a good dad tend to take things for granted. They do. They take things for granted, and the same way you treat your dad is the same way you treat God. I'm raised in a good Christian family, and sometimes you take God for granted too. So no matter where you are in this, God for the rest of your life, He will continue to restore those images. Remember, it's a process. It's not going to be a one-time thing. This is only going to be the eye opener, the momentum. Okay, and the healing process will continue. Okay, that's why the emphasis is cell group. That's actually the place where you will continue this healing process. Okay, so this is very, very important. Okay, so far does everybody understand?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So and then after that, of course, we talk about the distorted image, and then now we describe the right image of the Father. That He's nothing like this. He is nothing like this. He's not. He is not a dad who is distant. As a matter of fact, He's a dad who's so close. He's so close, He lives in you. That's how close He is. How much more closer can you get? Okay? And as a matter of fact, well, what about when I sin? That's the beautiful thing about God. He said that especially in the New Covenant, He said, "I will never leave you nor forsake you." In the Old Testament of law, if you mess up, guess what? My presence leaves you. But the New Covenant. In the New Covenant, this demonstrates the realness of God, the goodness of God. He says, "I will never leave you. I will never leave you nor forsake you." Isn't that beautiful? No matter how bad you think you are, your Father's always right there with you. If you're the prodigal son, the Father, as a matter of fact, has been waiting with open arms. See? It completely restored the image of the right image of dad. Okay? And then the impossible dad. Whose standard is so high, he cannot achieve. In the Old Testament, yeah, he is the impossible dad. It seems like, you cannot fulfill His standard. But thank God that in the New Covenant, this image is completely changed. Why? Because He's a dad that no longer sees you based on your performance or accomplishment, but He sees it based on the sacrifice of His Son, Jesus Christ, on the cross. He sees you as valuable. You've met the standard. You met the standard already. Not based on you, based on Jesus. Okay? The next one, the stepped on dad. See, let me tell you something. Jesus, you will never find Jesus get picked on by anyone. Okay? Get picked on by anyone. And including His mom. His mom loved Him because Jesus demonstrated what a real man looks like. You see, women and children flock to Him. Is that right? Every time you read the Bible, you see women women and children flock to him. Why? Because Jesus is the combination of what? Toughness and tenderness at the same time. Some men are too tough. Some men are too tender. Okay? So, Jesus is the perfect man. He is a man of steel and velvet. Wow. So he is that perfect man. So actually, your Father in heaven is that perfect man. Yeah, steel and velvet. Okay, so the tyrant dad. Well, he's not the tyrant dad. He's not an abusive dad. He's a loving dad. He waits. As a matter of fact, he's the dad that takes the beating for you. So how much more loving can a father be? The out-of-time dad. Let me tell you this. God, as busy as he is, as crazy as it is managing the universe, he makes time just for you. He would drop everything else to listen to you. That's the kind of dad that he is. And then we correct the rating dad. He doesn't play favorites. He loves you all the same because he does not look at you based on your performance. He looks at you based on what Jesus has done. The tombstone dad. I thank God that our God that we serve, our Father in heaven, speaks life and not death. Okay? So you talk about communication. He longs to hear from you. He longs to listen to you. He longs to have a communication with you. That's the kind of the dad that we serve. And he's not an egotistical dad. He's not a selfish dad. As a matter of fact, he's a selfless dad. That he was willing to sacrifice his own son for you. Okay? The dividing dad, as far as that goes, no. Our Father in heaven is a dad that never breaks his promises. Isn't that a good thing? So we restore back first this image. Okay? And then, so how do we go further in this? They have to understand that they have been forgiven by that Father in heaven. And when they have been forgiven by that Father in heaven, the Father in heaven gives them the power to forgive their dads now on earth. Okay? So this is the whole focus of this session, is to bring them to forgive their dad on earth. Okay? And how do we do that? Okay, coach, is very, very important. During the altar call especially. This is very, very key. You'll be praying for them. And a lot of times before you're even praying for them, they're already breaking down. They're already crying, they're already in tears, and that's why we want to make sure that, the girls coach the girls and the guys coach the guys. Because at that moment, they're very vulnerable. When they become very open, they're very vulnerable. Everything comes out, they confess their bitterness, and many people in the session end up screaming, end up, hollering because, they're so, the bitterness come out, Their bitterness come out, and slowly you have to teach every single one of them and lead